in 8 to 3, and then.
All right, I'm calling, Village of Cross Plains Board of Trustees meeting of May 13th, 2024 to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Bratton.
Present.
Trustee Brunner.
Here.
Trustee Borcar. Here. Trustee Borklin.
Here.
Trustee Paul Mikowski.
Here.
Trustee Calvater. Here. President Lightfoot.
Here, please stand for a pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the village board on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the village board encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Is there anybody here that would like to make a public comment? All right, do we have anybody on the computer that would? All right. First thing under, we have, our state representative, Mike Fair. If you'd like, speak.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. It's great to see a full room here this evening. You've got more people than usually we see. More people than we see, I think, at committee hearings in the Capitol. So good job packing the house. That's always a good sign for democracy when people are engaged and understand you got some good things, good awards and things to give out tonight. So I'll stick around and want to hear about all that as well. I wish I came with, good news from the Capitol. I guess there's a little bit, but usually it's not. We've got a new shared revenue system. I know you've all been following that. I've been in touch with Representative Considine, who was your representative here before. And now with the new maps, I'll be representing, if I get reelected, we'll be representing Village of Cross Plains and the town of Cross Plains as well, which I had in previous districts. So good, I think, to have those communities back together in one district. And that was one of the goals of redistricting, was to get communities of interest back together that had been split before. And so the shared revenue model was one of the bigger things that we got done in these last 2 years, and does include new dollars for village and every municipality, every county across the state. I voted against it for a number of reasons, mainly that there was a lot of strings attached to limit what you can use the new dollars on, which is frustrating and probably not the result that we wanted, but new dollars available nonetheless, a lot of that available for public safety issues and public works, which certainly can go to good use. So my office is also happy to help with any grant applications that you might have. There are a couple of new grant programs available related to that new act, the shared revenue formula and changes. So always happy to be in touch if you're working with another municipality, especially there's new dollars available. So let us know if we can help in any way on those efforts. Second big thing that we did, I think, was investing in workforce housing, which is an issue all across Dane County. I was on the Dane County board before being elected to the assembly, and something that we're hearing from every community about the cost of housing. And so there are 4 new buckets being administered by WIDA, the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Administration, to help build and convert things that are, Main Street and commercial into residential, and do infill. And so there's all these new buckets, one of them focused on rural workforce housing. And so dollars available coming there too. So another thing to sort of be aware of, and let your developers know that there's new dollars available. And again, we're happy to help work with WIDA on that. I'm on the housing committee and got a couple of amendments on those 4 buckets to make sure that the worker safety and the safety of the units is ensured once those hit the market. And then the final thing I wanted to touch on was, I think you'll see some news this week about vetoes, and the governor has vetoed a number of bills. I think there's 73 total that are possible for consideration this week in our veto review period. And this is probably the last action that you'll see by the legislature this year. And yes, it's only May. That's a little frustrating. I'm in the minority party, so I don't make the calendar. I don't get to choose when we're working and not working. I'd prefer if we were working a little bit more and doing more things, because there's certainly things to work on. But I think you'll see in the news that there are a number of bills that the Republicans will try to override the veto of the governor. One of those is on PFAS, which I know is a thing that I've heard from constituents around this area. Trying to ensure that we've got clean water and there are dollars approved in the budget that we could be spending right now, could have been spending months ago to help with PFAS remediation. And it's been held up by Republican controlled joint finance committee. So we're hopeful that we can get those dollars out and spend on things that that would be helpful on clean water. And so, you know, the few things that I've worked on as a representative really focus on working families issues and trying to make sure that we can help people afford housing and childcare. And make sure we've got good schools, take care of the environment, make investments in the community that we know are needed. So please consider me an ally to the work that you're doing. And I know that Representative Considine speaks well of working with you all, so hope to pick that relationship up. And you'll still have State Senator Hesselbein as your senator here. That didn't change. So happy to be in touch. And she sent her regards as well. I talked to her the other day, and we had a listening session at the library a couple weeks ago. It was great. So happy to represent this community in the future, and open to questions if that's allowable on your chart.
Anybody have a question?
Hey, look, it easy on me. No problem.
Well, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thank you all for your service here. I appreciate it. I was in the Roma City Council once upon a time, and I know how much time this takes from your evenings. And so thank you for doing this work.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. All right, we're going to ceremony. Just one note that you need, one of the, well, I guess I don't have the. Yeah, number 4 in the consent agenda should have been up here, so we'll cover that right after EMS and police. That'll be B. All right, I guess I will turn this over to the chief, I believe. And both chiefs, are you both doing it or?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
separate a little bit and we'll get a kind of.
Okay, so I'm gonna just turn this section over to you two.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is awesome support. You would think we're discussing ATVs. We have several awards to give out, which, several different incidents. So the first one that we want to give out is to Ted. Ted is an employee of ours, and I'm just gonna read what we wrote about him, reference an incident that he helped us with. So Ted, this is for your great compassion, heroism, and going above and beyond for a family in need and in danger. Your actions on Saturday, February 24, 2024 were a significant contribution to the well-being of the Cross Plains community. May your actions always serve as an example of hope and peace. So that's awarded to you. So just a little bit of snippet about that. There was a domestic incident, and we sometimes aren't on 24/7. But a family in need, children and a mother were running away from their abuser, and Ted protected them until we could get on scene. So that was way above and beyond anything that we would have expected from an employee or from any citizen. So thank you very much, Ted. The next set of awards are in combination with the EMS, and so I'll do mine and then I'll pass you on. So, first off, Sergeant Matt Hudson. Sergeant Matt Hudson has been with our department 2 years, and in that 2 years' time, he has been involved in 2 life-saving events. He participated in saving 2 different lives at 2 different times. Those of us that have been in law enforcement for 25, 30 years, I can tell you in a 30-year time, you might not find 2 events. So for him to be involved in such a high quality performance, ready to go with training and experience with his level of experience is amazing, because he maintained his composure and was able to help and save 2 lives. So this is to Sergeant Matt Hudson. I also gave him an official commendation letter, and then he also receives a distinguished service pin. So this is the second time he's received a pen like this, so. Matt, I forgot to give your hand. All right, this is for EMT Kelly Powell. So our department would like to recognize Kelly. She's also been involved in 2 saves with our department, recent ones. So she's doing an amazing job, and basically, I'm just gonna read what this says. This is referenced that day. It says, in recognition of your actions on Friday, March 8th, 2024, during an emergency that resulted in the saving of a human life, your proper application of training, experience, and equipment exemplifies your dedication to duty, preservation of life, and your service to the community. We also had 2 citizens involved during that incident. One citizen made the initial phone call and kind of calmed everyone down. We've tried to get a hold of him. I did leave him a message. His name is Del Pajawinski. If you're here, please come forward. Otherwise, nurse Brianna Gonzalez. So Brianna took initial life-saving measures right away at Piggly Wiggly. I think the employees kind of tried to summons a doctor, and Brianna happened to be there, and she right away jumped into her skills, so we're awarding her a life-saving. We'd like to come up for Piggly Wiggly employees. So the Piggly Wiggly employees, we're also recognizing them. They stayed calm during this whole incident that was very chaotic, very stressful. Things that we as law enforcement are trained to handle and to do, they did it without any training. We're able to keep people away from the scene, keep things safe, call in, make the call, provide information, and was actually very good for us because it gives us that life-saving. We only have so much time before, you know, we're out of that scope of being able to save a life. So we thank you very much, and we appreciate you guys coming. And last but not least, the fire department, they're always a partner of ours. They always respond, help us in every which way. And they responded also to that event. So if somebody could come up as a representative of the fire department.
So our awards for the EMS are kind of the same, in June, especially this year, survivors of cardiac arrest are acknowledged along with their EMS. Usually we don't get to see them afterwards. So, Kelly Powell, who was a first responder not on duty, responded to the call, and she was talking at the survivor banquet for us. And then our crew, CJ. And Linda's not here. And Brian. And then, we also recognize the firefighters, because you would think for CPR that the fire trucks aren't going to do a lot, but I promise you, they do everything and then some. So I have, I'm not sure how many firefighters here is Phil here. Brian, Brandon, Brett, Matt. And then the, one award that is a little new is for Park Bank. Kelly works at Park Bank, and she is allowed, when there's a serious call, to leave work and help, and that's what she did that day. And so on behalf of the EMS and the fire department and police, we would like to give you the missing link award, because if you hadn't done that, there would have been others, but I don't know.
Good job.
Being the being the missing link. And so everybody from our four municipalities that we serve should feel very proud that we have volunteers still, that as the EMS is getting the page, they've already been dispatched and are on their way to wherever the call is, so they can start CPR or start patient care before the ambulance gets there, and not a lot of communities have that anymore.
Ryan, you're up. American Legion.
I'm just going to quickly read the proclamation here before presenting that. Whereas millions of Americans have served in the United States Armed Forces and many have lost their lives in battle to preserve and defend the freedoms and quality of life enjoyed by people throughout the country. And whereas we must be reminded of the price of war and the debt owed to those who have died fighting for our country. And whereas born out of the tragedy of World War I, the red poppy that bloomed all over Europe followed the war now symbolizes the sacrifice of lives in all wars. And whereas each year, the American Legion Auxiliary Department of Wisconsin reminds all Wisconsinites of this debt through the distribution of this memorial flower throughout the month of May. And whereas this month and every month, the state of Wisconsin honors our veterans for their service and pays tribute to those who sacrifice their lives to uphold the values we share. Now, therefore, this is from Cross Plains Village President Jay Langfeld, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Poppy Month. Now,
Can you guys turn around and face the camp behind? Yeah. Brian, get in the.
Come on, Brian. Come on. You were the one that signed it, President. Why aren't you in the picture?
Because I want you. Need to get his face on there.
Okay. You have a face for radio, so.
All right, thank you. All right. We go to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. Okay, we're report of village officers, village president, a couple things. We had our annual community meeting. Behind you were the boards that the architects brought. You can see what we did is gave everybody 3 green dots and 3 red dots, and they were able, the green dots are what they like or they prefer. The red dots are what they really don't care for. And you can kind of see how it kind of turned out on that. There's some definitely clusters on that. We had about 70 people, I'm guessing, that participated, a little lower than what I would want. We had all 20 tables, volunteer groups, filled, and they were there, and that was a real plus, because not only did they talk with other community members, but they talked with them themselves, with us, and it was really a high value. So I put that as very, very high. They also gave, they really liked the event. They gave suggestions on improvement of it, which I agree. So it was a good starting point, but clearly there's areas to improve. I think we will continue with this. Just so you know, next year, I think the theme will be our comprehensive plan. We'll be talking about that a little bit later, so I'll go in more detail there. But I think that's a key, and then 2 years from now, it'll probably be at the perfect timing of do tours of the new Village Hall Police Station to be that. So we have some good draws on getting the community there. So that's real good. I came out of that meeting really excited on the economic development side of that. I talked with a lot of the groups that are tied to outdoor activities. And, as you know, about 10, 15 years ago, we decided to do the branding of the village as the center of outdoor activity. And then go after the outdoor recreational tourism dollars. So there were some really great ideas from those groups on how to encourage people to start their adventures here in Cross Plains. Which if you have more people coming here, there'll be more people using our businesses. And so I'm pretty excited about that, got some ideas, and they actually gave me some examples of where to go to see these things in action. So I've already made a trip to Lodi to look at theirs. So I got pretty excited about that from that meeting. So I thought it was overall a good plus. I just wish we would have had more participation, but we'll build on that. They had some ideas of drawing people in, so it was really pretty good. We're starting Thursday, meeting every 2 weeks with the architects. So the programming will be going into high gear shortly. We'll certainly keep everybody informed once we build a schedule on that. Clearly, there'll be a time where they'll come in and talk to the board. Obviously, so we'll have that all planned out with all the stakeholders and that. I'm guessing the next community input will probably be, I'm hoping, midsummer. Would be where I'm hoping we can get the next one in where, we'll have something similar to that where they can actually have hands-on participation and stuff, not just sit and listening, so. That's encouraging. So those are probably the two big items I wanted to talk about. Village Vice President.
No, I was out of town last weekend, but I heard Truck Days was a big success and there were a lot of people in town and everything went great. The next thing is Memorial Day. They are having a parade, they are doing the chicken barbecue, and they are still looking for volunteers. So I think we reach out to the chamber if we want to volunteer. Perfect.
All right, thank you. Other trustees reports, Doug.
I'll just piggyback. I want to recognize and say great job by the Lions and the Chamber of Commerce for the wine walk and Telt Days events. Our village had a ton of visitors and our businesses are all doing a lot of business. And I hope we can have a summer that can help from tomorrow.
I'm just gonna add on, I thought the rec department did a great job. They did the run in the morning and I got to take part in that. And then they had a really nice presence at the event, so it was nice to see them there soliciting input and from the community. And I thought the Lions Club and the Chamber did an excellent job. I thought the music was like the best year ever played. So nice job.
Anybody else? All right, Village Administrator.
I received word last week that our USDA pre-app for the Village Hall Police Station was formally accepted. So next steps in our process, there's one financial feasibility report that I need to complete. Otherwise, the other two remaining documents that need to be completed will be prepared by our village or our hired architect for the project. And then be submitted and should go to underwriting for loan approval.
Right, thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll go to village department heads. Chief, you're on first.
Hi there. I'm just gonna first start off by just, you all should have received a copy of a letter, commendation letter that I gave my entire staff. We happen to be on, actually training in firearms the day of the incident at Mahoro. So we all responded, under mutual aid to assist them. So everybody within our department took part in that at different forms. Some of us, took command positions and entered buildings and searched for second suspects and things like that. But everybody was involved, everybody followed through what they needed to do in a very high tense situation. We were on scene, we were third on scene. There's two on-board officers and then our officer was next. So we were instrumental right away from the beginning of that incident. We stayed there until all the kids were released to their parents. Meanwhile, I did not forget about our village and the fact that, citizens here would be concerned for their own children. So I reached out to Troy Hillenbrand at Middleton PD, and he assigned officers to our community while we could handle the event in Mount Horeb. So that shows the partnership that we have with Middleton PD. They immediately ascended onto our community. They have more staff, and we're able to cover this, well, since we were a lot closer to Mount Horeb. And
Can I just add, EMS, our EMS was out there, Wanakee sent a unit to cover ours, so it is really good cooperation.
Yeah.
First
So,
responders.
I just, I put a letter of commendation for all my staff. They all, handled themselves very well. And were able to kind of flush right into the command that was happening at that time, and work as a team of multiple teams, and, things worked out as best they could. So, I really do commend them and thank them for their service on that. The next topic is the annual report, which sorry, Cameron, he's already been through this through public safety, but I'm just gonna go through it really quick. This is the 4th year that I've done it. You'll see some of the things are kind of the same thing that I've added in years past, as far as the message from our department. Our mission has not changed. It continues to be the same. The oath of office and ethics, code of ethics, obviously continue the same. We did have some changes within the village officials, which I have updated to include a couple new commissioners and I believe that's one public safety committee. The next slide would be our organizational chart. We did retire Kim Reddy, who served as a law enforcement officer for 24 years, 6 of which he was here. As you guys well know, we've retired now 3 officers or 3 staff members with over 30+ years. So we have a new wave of officers coming in, and we're happy with what we have. Taylor Fingerson and Officer Jonathan Weaver are new hires. Then the next, which you'll see, is what the employees are involved with beyond their scope of policing. They are expected to be involved with the community at a high level, and this is all the things that they choose to be involved in and choose to help within the department. So you'll see the list is extensive. Then after that, you'll see the budget, which you guys are well aware of what our budget is like, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. And then we'll get to the statistics. So this will be the last year that I include a year before I was here. 2019 was Chief Jansen's last year. I've always included 5-year statistics, so next year you won't see that anymore. Probably the biggest takeaway, if you want to go all the way to the second page, would be that from 2019, which was 1,600+ cases, we are up to 3,000 cases. So that nearly has doubled the amount of work. And we obviously haven't doubled the amount of staff. We haven't increased a single staff member. That being said, that has put it's put a strain on the department, and I've repeated it every year. It's something that this board really needs to start considering, looking at 24-hour coverage and increasing staffing, because we are handling calls even when we're not on duty. We come on and there's sometimes calls pending. Good thing is I have a really good relationship with the West District, but they have their own responsibilities to handle. So their lieutenant, will keep me in the loop on anything major. So we're sometimes coming out of bed in the middle of the night to handle major investigations or major calls, or just picking them up in the morning. Key takeaways from the statistics, you'll see probably one of the big things is our involvement within the community. You'll see special events, for instance, in 2019, they went to 4 special events. Last year we had 40. So every opportunity that we have to be part of the community, we're there. And if that means that I have to move things around just to make them part of that, I do. The other thing that's increased quite a bit is our traffic enforcement. I get a lot of complaints about traffic. We have a lot of vehicles that come through town, traveling at very speeds and especially in the school zone. So we spend a lot of time trying to slow people down. The other calls are pretty much this around the same. We continue to increase information calls, which is what we want. Information calls are anything from somebody just calling us to let us know something that's going on in the community, or something that we've learned through our contacts within the community. As you can see, they had 14 calls before I took over. Last year we had 249. So they're really involved in the community, and it shows because I get a lot of positive comments from our community members with regards to our enforcement. Next section is the significant events. Believe it or not, we do have a lot of significant events that happen here in Cross Plains. And these are just a few. I just wanted to give you guys a little something to read and to ask questions if you would have some. This was asked of me from public safety, the last page, projects and programs. These are the things that in the last 4 years, public safety's been involved, or our department's been involved in multiple different things. So I've updated emergency operation plan, which some of you are a part of that, field training manual, the website, the Facebook page. We've started a scholarship program for graduating seniors. We were gonna do it where it would be for people that are going into law enforcement, but unfortunately, we're not getting a lot of people in that career. So we decided to make it a first responder type of scholarship. We've updated the server, the firewall. We're still waiting on our squad cars. We're limping 2 squad cars along. And then you can see all the other initiatives that we've been involved in. De-escalation training. Businesses are taking me up on de-escalation training. I've done quite a few of them, including the library. It really does work out to try to get people to be able to de-escalate a situation at a business. It actually helps us out as well, because then we don't necessarily will be called to a serious incident if people are able to de-escalate. So we're doing a lot of proactive work. Then if you look down, so part of the statistical stuff is our staff last year worked 282 extra hours to be able to cover all the things that we do. Me as chief of police, I worked an extra 335 hours. Like I've said, every year, that's about the average that it's been. It's not sustainable. You just can't sustain it, because we're basically, a lot of the officers and myself are trading, you get vacation, but then you're working so much extra hour that you're really not getting the vacation and time away. So burnout can happen, and so it's definitely something we need to take a strong look at. The national average for law enforcement continues to be the same. It's probably been the same. That 2.5 is probably the number even when Jay was a police officer. It's stayed pretty consistent, 2.5 officers for every 1,000 residents. So in contrast, like Marshall, we're constantly compared to Marshall. They have 10 officers. So we're doing our work with three less than they are. So I definitely think we need to start looking at that. Some other statistics that are down there. Future initiatives, these are the things that we're working on now. We're at about 90% updating department policies. We went to Lexipol a year or 2 years ago, and we went through every policy line by line to add best practice, make sure we're up to date with state laws, federal laws regarding all our policies. The whole goal is that someday we will be WILEG certified, which means that not only do we talk the talk, but we walk the walk, that the department is at a high standard with regards of the way they police, and that they follow all their policies and procedures without question. And so that's where we're headed. There's a couple other big things, that the officer wellness program, that we have really taken that on at a high level to make sure that our officers are well. The goal is that, you know, law enforcement is such a short-lived career. We want them to be healthy beyond their time as law enforcement officers. So I've made that a priority. And so we're working through a program. Actually, Officer Kimball has taken on the responsibility as peer support, and the officers are already using her. It was easy to see when we had the older officers, when we started this program, they didn't really go to her, but the newer officers go to her because she has 6-7 years of experience and she's been through a lot of what they've been through. So it's perfect timing with regards to the peer support program. Then you'll see all the other accomplishments. Doug was instrumental in a lot of these. He was part of the public safety committee, and Cameron has not missed a beat. He's continued those projects, and so we appreciate the partnership. And then you'll just see a bunch of fun pictures of all the contacts that we've had and all the different events that we've been at. That's about as short as I can make it.
No, that's fine. Does anybody have any questions for the chief?
Well done, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other department heads here? Oh, you want anything, Elizabeth? Okay. We'll go to general business. First one is discussion and possible action, general development plan for 100 Pine Meadow Court. We have people for that. Why don't you come on up to the table, please? All right, go ahead. It's all yours.
Well, we'll start out by just introducing ourselves. My name is Mike Larson. I'm the owner of the property.
Mike Polkowski, owner of Little Creek Construction. Patrick Egan, building designer. And Randy Kwinsky, civil engineer with Beer Vector.
So we've got the property over there that has 3 8-units already. There's a portion of the property that was never developed. And we just want to put a 7-unit building there, kind of taking some input that we've gotten. Scale the building back a little bit to the 7 units, as opposed to the 8 that we had originally wanted. I think it's a good fit for the property. The building, the other buildings are completely full right now, so we've been asked for vacancy options all the time, so we think that there's definitely need for it. I think if there's anything else.
Well, what we're trying to do with this project is do what a lot of other communities are doing. It's kind of an infill project, complete the other 16 units. The land is, I mean, we're creating tax base with it. And the way it's in that back corner, it's not skirting anyone's views or any other part of the neighborhood. It's in the back corner of this property. Yeah, I guess, you know, I know we've come before a plan commission, we came to concept, we've come, then for the formal submittal, and we're here, you know, we're looking at PD zoning, just for some flexibilities as far as, some setbacks, separation distances between buildings. I know stormwater has been another issue that's come up. You know, we are, even though technically per the ordinance, we are not required to do stormwater. We don't meet the threshold of impervious area that's been added since 2001. There is concern about flooding in the area, and so we are meeting the stormwater ordinance and the requirements for this development. And so we just kind of, we want to present this project to the board, hear what the thoughts or concerns are, and discuss those a little bit further.
Why don't I give a little background from the village perspective on that? He's correct. They originally came with an 8-unit. and their square footage does not meet the straightforward, ordinance to require stormwater, but in our ordinance, it also gives the village engineer the authority to require it. So that's what happened with this project, so they did, reduce it smaller, they have the water retention now. This made it to plan, it was, voted down 4-3, so it was a very close vote. The people who voted against, their main concern was, if you read our ordinances, when you do these give up, like they mentioned, it's the setback, it was underground parking, a little bit into the slope for the waivers that they need. And supposedly for giving that up, we're supposed to get something in return, and it's, our ordinance is pretty narrow scoped, and making it look nicer is one of them, and there's a few things that are really artificial in the sense of the building. The other people who were in favor of it, mentioned the same thing. It's infill. It's a lot that you're not gonna get probably anything else built on it. If you know it's at the end of the cul-de-sac, there's apartment buildings behind it, to both sides of it. The actual scope, if you go out there, the slope, if you go out there, it looks like that's just where they move dirt. They're not going into the actual hillside. As mentioned, there's housing that's a demand in Cross Plains, so this would give us 7 more units. Clearly, there's the revenue that gets tied to it. So that's where we are, you know. I personally, and I'll just give mine now, I'm for this because I don't think it's not a big enough space for usable green space. I mean, we're not gonna do that. It's a lot. It's an apartment lot. They have 3 of the buildings, and this would be the 4th. Behind it is apartment buildings. I don't see a single family buying that lot and putting a single family in there. I don't see a retail business, or it's not big enough for manufacturing or anything like that. So I certainly think it's a good fit, and I'm going on that. Yes, we're not holding them to the standards of the ordinance, but what we're getting is something usable needed on a piece of property that I don't think would get developed without those waivers. So that's where I'm coming from, but I just wanted to be straightforward before the 3 vote plan. Okay, Doug and then Cody.
So I'll just give a little perspective too. I've gone down a few times, checked the site. I'm in favor of it. I think it looks, if you look at the site, it looks like there should be 4 buildings there. I believe in infill piece and affordable housing. I heard a lot of stuff, both at the Chamber Wine Walk, or when people come into our community, know how expensive it is to live here. A lot of us had places on Valley Street as apartments if we couldn't afford the houses to start. I do think it's a good opportunity to get a few more people into our businesses, an opportunity for us to get a little more tax revenue out of that piece of property. So, and I think if you've gone down to look at it, I think a 4th building looks like that's what was all this originally intended.
Cody.
I pretty much mirror what Doug said, like at our candidates forum, one of the questions was, what can you do to provide affordable housing in Cross Plains? And the same thing, I always wondered why there wasn't a 4th building there, so I have 0 problems with it.
Anybody else? Cameron?
So I listened to the plan commission meeting on this one, and it was a little hard to follow because you can't hear all of the audio on it, but I heard, I thought the vote no, people who voted no was like flooding concerns. There's a part where they were talking about like a 100-year flood could cause issues, and I'm just, has that been addressed at all or no?
Yeah, they meet, I believe, if I remember, you meet the stormwater
We
requirement.
meet the stormwater requirements, which is detention up to the 100-year flow. I think the issue at hand, I think what's kind of being construed and maybe misconstrued is, you know, the flooding event that happened in 2018, that was a 1,000-year flood. And so regardless of whether anything gets built on this property or not, if we get that rainfall event, it will happen again, period. You know, unless there's major, storm sewer upsizing or things of that nature, public improvements to get water out, that will happen again. So, that is the highest level that we designed to, that's what the ordinance calls for new development is the 100-year storm, and that's what we're meeting.
Anybody else?
I was just gonna add that the slope in the back, they are putting in a retaining wall on that to protect for any disturbance to that back area of the lot.
Michael, you had something?
Yeah, I went and listened to the plan commission meeting also, because I saw it was voted down. I wanted to see what their concerns were. I kind of mirrored some of their concerns in terms of flooding, in terms of pervious surface usage. I went out and looked at the site. And yeah, you're going all the way up to the property line. It looks like you're gonna have a retaining wall, which looks like that's max height, probably 7 to 8 feet, but then it's gonna be down slope. So you're kind of really getting up into that corner. I don't think that was moved soil. I think that's actually part of the hillside up in that corner. Looks like the center part of it is raised, like where they raised it. But as you get up, it actually is going into the hill. It's gonna be this wall back there. So, you start to think about, okay, well, why do we have a 20% hillside overlay protection if we're not going to defend it at any time or not defend it? I understand why it's there. Erosion control, et cetera. It sounds like you're handling the stormwater. At the exact same time, I also kind of feel that given the spot, I know you're trying to put as many units in it, but it just almost feels like it's too big of a building for the area where it is as it gets further set back into the hill. It's even gonna be further set back than the one across the way, which the hill just gently comes down to it. And this is actually more up into that corner, more up into that groove. And that's my feeling, which I won't be in support of this for those reasons. Feel it's a little bit too much going up into that.
Anybody else? I guess, what are you looking for tonight? Because this is conceptual, right?
I guess we're looking for board approval that we invest and keep moving forward.
Well, hang on. We gotta make sure we're all understanding what we're approving. You still need to bring in the actual plan. So it says general development. I don't know what that term is. To me, this is a conceptual. You're looking to see if the majority of the board likes the project and backs the project, then you'll go farther into more of the detail of it.
Correct.
Is that what I just want to make sure, because I'm not sure what general development plan means.
The specific implementation plan that's still needing approval.
Right, so this is more the conceptual part, okay. So I just want to make sure everybody here understands that this will be coming back again, but they're gonna be investing some money into it, so we gotta really, have a clear understanding. Okay, does everybody understand that right now it's the conceptual, so you're looking at this, it's basically gonna stay like this. They'll just come in with much more detail, so we'll know exactly how big the retaining wall is and exactly where the corner is and all that good stuff. Is that, so we're, Doug?
Yeah, I'll just make another quick comment more on the water side, because I'm on the planning commission, so I've heard a lot of our members speak of that often, flood event. I live on Offenburg, I lived through it. We were putting some new housing right up the stream for me, where, impervious surface, all of our houses, all of that. And I think as a community, that's also part of the reason I'm in favor of this, because there's not a ton of places to go. Whether it's on the hills or because of our creek boundaries and things like that. So it's just, I feel when we're doing the water systems right, the water retainment right, that we can continue to grow responsibly as a community. I think this lot is a perfect place for that.
All right, so when I have a motion, anybody have a problem using conceptual plan?
Why don't you just approve the general?
Because I don't know what that means. Unless he's got, is there a difference between a general development plan and a conceptual plan?
Well, that's actually what's on the plan development procedure, public hearing consideration of PD, GDP, plan development, general plan development zoning from the plan commission and village board. That's the step that we're on inside
Okay.
of getting a plan
All right.
development, because then.
As long as everybody has a clear understanding on what we're approving.
Which is what this is, and the consideration of the specific implementation plan is the next one, where they provide detailed engineering drawings, where you start to actually see the details. I think with this, they're just trying, like, if we I'm voting in favor or against it, because I think the 7-unit is too big, I think it's gonna be jammed into the corner. Now, if it was gonna be a 5-unit, I might be in more support, because you're not getting all the way up into that back corner, you're bringing it back a little bit, you might not have to go so far into the hillside, etc. That's why I'm telling you why I'm gonna be voting against it. And that's like where this general development.
Okay,
plan
as
is.
long as we're all on, everybody has an understanding, so I don't get yelled at later on.
I will make a motion, but do I say, I'm gonna make a motion to approve 100 Pine Meadows Court General Development
Plan, yeah,
Plan.
that's what we're doing.
I will second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Let's do a roll call vote, so it's clear to everybody.
Trustee Brad,
Yes.
trustee Borcar,
Yes.
trustee Brunner,
Yes.
trustee Pankowski,
No,
trustee Borland,
Yes.
trustee Cavalier,
Yes.
president Lightfoot.
Yes. All right, thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, discussion and possible action regarding 2023 annual financial audit report.
Jump in.
Go ahead, Mike, yeah.
So got some new faces here. My name is Brett Hoffmeister. I'm an audit partner with Johnson Block and Company, and going to go over the 2023 audited financial statements, and mainly just a summary. So we've got this presentation here that's currently on the screen. This is just kind of pulling out some highlights from the draft audit document. So the first thing on page 1 is just kind of is content of what is in the actual, when you look at the audited financial statements, what you see in there. So you'll start off with seeing the independent auditors report. I'll go over that a little bit more in a second, but we have, everything's a draft right now. Our report is unmodified. I don't anticipate that changing. Unmodified opinion is the highest level of assurance we can give in an audit, so that's what you would expect to see and want to see. Means everything's in accordance with accounting principles. Any adjustments that have been made, the notes and financial statements contain all the needed information. After that, there's a set of fund financial statements and government-wide financial statements. The fund financial statements is kind of what I'll talk about here. I'm still on page 1, right?
Yeah, Brian.
Oh, so I'm so sorry.
Well, keep it brief. But, so we got your financial statements, so your fund financial statements, are modified accrual, when we're looking at your governmental funds, that would be like your general fund, debt service, capital projects, tip. Your business type funds are then your utilities, so your water, sewer, and sewer utilities. Those are full accrual, so they're accounted more like a business. The differences between those two, long-term liabilities, long-term assets aren't shown on those governmental funds. The business type funds, they are. So debt on your governmental funds is an expenditure when you pay your debt, your debt service payments. On your business type funds, it's a liability that gets reduced, and kind of the same thing with capital assets. The government-wide statements are converted to full accrual from those governmental funds, and those show more the overall village. They show all your governmental funds as one unit and your business type funds as one unit. So just a little different basis there. After the financials, you get into the footnotes, which have significant accounting policies and detailed account information. And that just kind of gives more detail on the overall accounting policies and balances of the village. So when you look at the draft financials, that's kind of what you'll see, the main pieces there. Other reports we help with, the Water Utility Public Service Commission annual report, that's due
changed the deadline a couple years ago, so now I can never remember, but that's due May 1st. And that just takes the water utility financials and gives them in the form the PSC wants. And then the Department of Revenue, municipal financial report, or Form C, that's due on Wednesday. We can have that drafted and should have that submitted, no problem. But those are just regulatory reports, getting the financial information to the state. The other comments and findings, so there are a couple other letters that we issue that accompany the financial statements. They give information, more background on, any issues or significant estimates that we would have with the audit. Most of that is pretty boilerplate language. We also look at internal controls through the audit and give comments or findings on specific items. The two findings that we typically have in the village relate to material audit adjustments. So through the audit process, we make adjustments to the financial statements to get everything in accordance with GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. When we have those adjustments, we typically have a finding there. Not uncommon with smaller municipalities to have something like that. And the other one is, again, common in smaller municipalities. When you have a smaller office staff handling the administrative and accounting functions, there's typically overlapped accounting duties. And we typically have some sort of comment or finding when that happens, just so that everybody's aware when you have more concentrated duties, there's a little bit additional risk there. And so everybody has awareness of that. The other comment relates to the fund deficit in the TIF. That one we've had in there, it's more just kind of informational, make sure everybody's aware there is a deficit in that TIF. It should take care of, it should clear in 2024, so I don't expect to have that comment in future audits there.
I have one quick question.
Yep.
You just said, you said about the one person with all the duties. Do we have many duties that are dual control? Do we do anything like when we're paying bills or doing?
Yeah, there is certainly
We already have
compensating
it.
controls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
But then, there's still enough that kind of overlaps with one person, and it isn't necessarily in one specific area.
Oh,
But just, things get concentrated when you only have 2 to 3 office staff that handle the majority of the accounting functions.
but I thought we had put that in place.
Yes.
So I was just curious.
Mhm.
Gotcha, thanks.
Next page is kind of the key takeaways from the financial statements, and this is, I'm kind of gonna go through this. I know the rest of the information in here is more, if you have questions on it, I'd be happy to address anything, but kind of overall key takeaways from the audit. As I mentioned, the audit is in draft form, but it is essentially done. There might be a couple of footnotes that get added here and there if there's, been anything approved since the end of the year that would need to be disclosed. But our report will be unmodified. Don't anticipate any changes there. Like I mentioned, that's what you would want to see in an audit. Looking at your general fund, fund balance increased by about $286,000 for the year. Revenues were over budget. Expenditures came in under budget for the year. Actually budgeted for a decrease after budget amendments, so that would be using some fund balance. But that came in better than expected there. Total fund balance was just under $1.3 million just in your general fund. And of that, there's 5 different categories it can be in. I specifically call it the non-spendable, even though it doesn't make up much, just to kind of show that most of the fund balance is available for either specific purposes, whether it's restricted to either assigned or your unassigned balance is about $1.1 million at the end of the year, which is about 31% of your 2024 budget. Generally, we would recommend that unassigned fund balance be in a range of 20 to 25%, generally 2 to 3 months worth of expenditures there. So that 31% is very healthy, no concerns there with your general fund. The non-spendable category specifically, I call it there because that can't be used to meet an obligation. It's money that's kind of already been paid out, or is in a non-spendable form. So you have very little fund balance in there. In your general fund, that used to be higher because of advances to the TIF, but that's kind of been eliminated over the past couple of years. Specifically looking at the TIF, you have fund deficit of $100,000. That's covered by an advance from the sewer fund. That should be eliminated in 2024, and then your TIF will show positive fund balance and cash at the end of the year. Right now, there is cash in the TIF at the end of the year, but that's advanced tax collections. So that's 2024 taxes that were collected before the end of 23. And that money is really isn't available for current operations. But that advance, the TIF has pretty much met budget expectations every year for at least the last 5 years, I think, so no real concerns there, from a cash flow perspective. Utility operations, unrestricted and restricted cash balances, water had about $670,000 in cash. Sewer had about 2.75 million, which looks like a lot, and it is, but about 1.6 million of that is restricted for specific purposes. So either your debt sinking fund, or equipment and infrastructure replacement funds. So majority of that fund, of those cash balances are restricted for specific purposes. Yep.
So there's no way we can take any of that 2.75 and put on our debt for the 2.9? Where it says like, okay, sewer is approximately 2.75 million in cash, and our sewer debt total is 2.9.
Mhm.
We can't use any of that for that.
So the replacement funds are restricted for future improvements to either the plant or replacing like infrastructure, like we did at Brewery Road. There's a debt sinking fund, but that is more for making the regular debt service payments. For the utility, the rest of the cash, a lot of it is set aside for additional equipment, replacement. I think that's $500,000 or $600,000 is kind of set aside in designated, cash account. So the village board could make, decisions to use some of that. Right now, the sewer utility is cash flowing fine to make that service payments, so no real concerns there from an audit perspective.
Or we could use it rather than taking out debt, we buy something for the sewer that comes in with capital.
Correct.
Be corrected to.
And that is the main purpose of those restricted funds, is that theoretically you wouldn't have to borrow as much, whether it's having to upgrade equipment at the treatment facility, having to replace infrastructure and collecting mains as you do road work, which that's what a chunk of the money was spent this year on the Brewery Road project. Well, $330,000 in cash on hand was used rather than having to borrow additional funds. So that's kind of what those restricted funds are built up for, to try to offset future borrowing costs. Debt balances we touched on. Water debt has about $5.6 million in total debt. Sewer, like we mentioned, is 2.9 million. Your largest clean water fund loan, I think, has 2 years as of the end of 2023. That is going to be retired in 2025.
Oh, yeah,
The-
for the sewer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's about another $1 million after, so I think that'll free up cash flow there as well. Yeah, I think it's about $450,000 in debt service annually between
Yeah.
principal and interest, so that's $900,000 over the next 2 years, and that'll be free cash flow after that. Cash flow wise, both funds did have increases in cash. Water increased by about $235,000, mostly just from regular operations. New debt proceeds were about $2.2 million, as well as construction costs for both well projects and Brewery Road. Outlays there were about $2.2 million, so those pretty much offset each other. Sewer utility increased by about $97,000. TIF repayment was about $120,000. And then the utility used about $336,000 in cash on hand to fund the Brewery Road project. Utility, the only new rates will be water. There was a 2-step increase that was approved back in 2022. Step 1 went into effect in 2022. Step 2 is contingent on those well projects finishing up at this point. Once those are done, step 2 will go into effect, and then that should provide cash flow to meet the debt obligations as debt service payments start up on those new loans. And then geo debt capacity, so this is your general obligation debt. Right now, you've got about 75% of your geo debt capacity available. So your total capacity is about $26.7 million. That's what you have available by state statute. And you only have about $6.7 million in geo debt outstanding right now, as of the end of 2023, I should say.
So those are kind of the high level key takeaways. After that, we're getting some financial highlights. I wasn't gonna go through anything in detail there unless there's specific questions or comments or anything you wanted to discuss. But kind of those are the high level things. You know, overall, it was a clean audit, financial health, no concerns in any of the funds. You know, the rate increases recently have been providing adequate cash flow for all the debt service payments, and once those wall projects get done, we don't really have any concerns there. Once those new rates come into effect, and all the funds, you know, overall with healthy fund balance, we don't really have any concern with any of the funds.
Go ahead, Cameron.
So just to clarify, the utility cash flows, water. An increase of 235,000 is like an increase in our costs to run the water.
So that means it generated positive cash.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay, that's what I was like, yeah, I was like, we got more people here, so I'm confused how the
Yeah.
cost went way up, but okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and just I'm also saying that the cash flows were generated from operations, so it wasn't like you issued debt in advance and you've just got a bunch of cash on hand and you kind of spent. Yeah, because that the operations fund or the cash flows from operations fund, your debt service payments, capital improvements, that type of thing. So they're adequate to fund the operations of the utility.
Michael?
When you just said we had 6.7 million in general obligation debt, that's including the tax for the debt that the TID owes as well, right? That's
Correct.
included in that bucket,
Yeah.
just making sure that.
Yeah, all the tip debt has been geo debt. It hasn't been like a specifically from the bond or anything like that.
Right,
That was
part of it. It's always part of that bucket, because taxpayers are ultimately responsible for the debt that it's out.
Yeah, that's the way it was structured here.
Yeah.
Or geo debt.
Okay, just making sure.
Any other questions from anybody? Cameron?
I guess a quick summary of what is in the geo debt. Like, you know, just the word that. Is that.
Like what we.
Yeah, like what,
we borrow.
how many of the 6 million is tip? How many of the 6 million is still paying off the?
There's a
So sewer and water debt are revenue bonds, so though, when we're talking about geo debt, it doesn't get lumped into that fund. Because those are the revenues of the utilities were pledged to pay that off. Geo debt, you're pledging the full faith and credit of the village, essentially the tax levy is pledged to pay those off. So the geo debt would be things like, specific things, yeah, the TIF debt, you know, your regular borrowings every year to pay for roadwork, equipment purchases. Is there a fire station debt that's still outstanding?
No, I think that's been retired.
Big ones, I mean, there's probably still some Highway 14.
Well-
Costs on there, we bought for that, there's Highway P costs when we did that in 2018.
And a lot of those were actually borrowed and paid for with revenue bonds, with clean water fund and sewer state drinking water
Right.
loans, so those aren't. gonna
It's the
be-
month, it's the yearly ones. In fire, I guess we did the roof. We borrowed for the roof of the fire department, so that's there, but it's, you know, we've been borrowing 400,000 to $1 million a year to cover our capital, and that's what's. And then we do 10 years, so you have 10 years of that.
Not that the spreadsheet will show, but Bobby has a really good spreadsheet from Ellers that shows like all the years out and it breaks down how much you're gonna pay each year. It doesn't say what we borrowed on those, but it shows how much is left to pay off.
Okay.
Like,
So like when we get the complete audit, that's in there too. Every year they break it down. to
Yeah,
what-
there's
what-
I put it on the website and it was
Yeah.
linked in the packet. I put the
At the
link.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a summary of the bond issuances by year and how much is left outstanding. It doesn't show a breakdown of how
What-
much for each purpose.
Yeah.
And I guess that's my question. When will we get the actual final audit?
We are pretty much ready to go. We usually have a draft here. If there's any edits or any questions or things people notice that need to change, we give everybody a chance for that. We'll send a rep letter this week and we should have it. We can have it issued within the next week.
Michael?
This is just a
general, but like with our general fund now being at 31%, whereas like I think our policy is like 20% is what we need to retain, because some places retain 20-25. What do other municipalities do when their general fund starts to inflate like that? Do they use it to not borrow, like in our capital, we're coming up with just flat out buy the 2 police cars with cash and not take out debt using these funds? Is that what other communities do when they start to accumulate excessive cash in their general fund?
Yeah, I've seen places have policy where they'll excess fund balance, they'll move to like their capital projects fund for future equipment purchases or to offset future borrowing costs. Essentially using that more for, one-time purchases that you're not gonna have recurring things in your budget.
Right,
Because once you spend it, it's gone.
and the fund balance has that excess balance of to do that.
Yeah.
Use that.
Yeah, and so things like equipment purchases that, you either borrow for it or use the funds one time. That's generally what we see places do.
What do you see? Okay. I was just wondering if they do anything else or is there anything creative or what have you?
Yeah, for the most part, it's, some places will borrow internally, like if they have equipment in the utilities or have projects that they, maybe don't want to bond for. The long, essentially what the general fund and sewer utilities had to do with the TIF.
Right.
They'll advance funds and then, pay them back over, 3, 4, 5 years. And then also get some interest back in the general fund. But usually it's gonna be used one way or another for one-time capital purchases. Is generally what you see people do with like excess fund balance like that.
Right. If you didn't like sewer fund to go up to bond, you could just load it the money and it pays you back then.
Yeah, assuming it's a small enough project that you don't need,
Millions.
right.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I don't know, do we need an action on this? Bobby, or is this an informational thing?
I mean, I think we should approve the draft that we can vote on.
Oh,
I make a motion to approve the draft 2024 audit.
second. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same. So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we're at discussion and possible action, resolution adopting public participation in the 2020.
Skipping.
Oh, I'm sorry. Geez, you've been sitting here the whole time. All right, discussion and possible action, sign permit 2020 Main Street. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, so this is very similar to another one that we just recently spoke of. So the request for this particular sign permit is to display a concert series over at the coffee house, the community space adjacent to it. The duration request for the banner that is going to be utilized for this display is requested to be put up from the 15th of May through September 15th. By village ordinance, I'm only allowed to approve a temporary banner up to 30 days in duration. So this is a example of a permit that I needed to deny and have the appeal come to the board for authorization and approval.
Katie, would you like to speak?
Sure, this is my 5th year in a row asking you guys for something.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, no, this
That's
was my last year for a little while.
That's the system.
Yes, so we are planning to do a free outdoor concert series every Friday night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in Esser Square, which we've named the fenced-in area right next to the Creekside Scoop. It will be free. We have all of the music already lined up, but we would like to hang a vinyl banner on the side of our building on 2020. So it would be the west side, it would be the northwest corner. But so people can see it coming in from the west. So this is a very easy mock-up of it. Obviously it would be more like this. But 8 feet by about 3.5 feet.
And it just says concerts every Friday.
Yeah, it just says free outdoor summer concert every Friday, May 24th through August 30th. It's Memorial Day weekend to Labor Day weekend. I said May 15th and September 15th. Very likely we are not gonna get this up until right before Memorial Day, and we don't really need it after Labor Day, so we can take it down. I just put those dates up, so it would cover us. And then 6 to 8 PM, and then we've got some sponsors.
I'll make a motion to approve, sorry, to approve the sign banner. I don't even know how to say it, for more than 30-day request, or how do I?
Well, just you're approving a permit for the request for 2020 Main Street.
That's what I'm doing.
Did you second it?
Seconded it.
So a motion and a second, discussion. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. You're good to go.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You won your appeal. Put that down in the win column.
I thought at first it was the banner that got over for you. When I first read it, that's what it did.
No, yeah, but that, she would have to go to. That's a lot. All right, now I'm at 4, discussion and possible action, resolution adopting public participation, 2024 comprehensive plan update. Oh, you want me to run with this?
Yeah, you, if you want to
It's
take it.
actually not the 2024, it'll be a 2027. What the plan commission has decided is to go through the process of basically updating or doing a new, comprehensive plan. So the old one was done in 2018, we would have until 2028. But there's been enough changes here that really with that plan, we would have to do a couple amendments to cover some of the changes. So our plan is more fitting in where we want to do and where we want to go. So we've decided, instead of doing that, then 2 years later, starting all over again. So the plan commission is doing that. We've set up a timeline. We're doing just updating the chapters, and that'll take us through March 3rd. We're doing one each month. So March 3rd, we'll have it updated. And then we will bring it out to the board and to the community to get input, because then we'll have an up-to-date draft. So what this is, part of state statute that says the plan commission and the board of the municipality have to commit to getting input from the community. And if you look at our current plan, we're just gonna follow the same thing. There's like 9 steps. We're already doing 4 of the steps. So there's 5 that we're planning to do in 2025 and 2026, and that would be having a meeting on future land use, a community survey, a vision workshop, an open house, and focus group with key stakeholders. So that's what we're planning to do, plus the other things of having it on the agenda and having a public comment for each item if people want to comment. So that's kind of where we're at. That's what this is for tonight. Just saying that this board is willing and want the work on the comprehensive plan to include community participation. Cameron.
What kind of amendments, I guess, are caused like that we would need that is causing us to just redo the whole comprehensive thing?
Well, I think one would be looking at our water zones. I think there's more emphasis on economic development. I think our housing is, and every time we grow, the amount of land that we can put in our comprehensive plan grows. You can go all the way up to the 1.5 miles, so that, we've had quite some developments. So it's just time, and I think we could do 1 or 2 more. I think we've done 3 already on it, so it's just a matter of how much work. If we're gonna put the time in, let's just do it. And you can see, there's a lot of data that's outdated. I mean, I did the chapter that just is with participating with other jurisdiction, and just the information on the school district and the studies that they were referring to have changed, And I know, like with the school district, number of kids, now the number of elementary schools, doesn't change that often. But, you know, the study that, an important study that they did was the Black Earth watershed infrastructure. That just came out from the flooding. That came out, but if you read our 2018, they just, yeah, and they talk about this, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's, I just think if we're gonna put the effort in, let's just do it right. I think, plan is taking the heavy lifting on this. We're stretching it over 3 years, so it's not gonna be overburdened to everybody. And I think, like I say, we're moving through, we'll get to you once we get the draft, where we get an update, and the update is just filling in the good information. We'll send it out, and you guys, yeah, certainly we'll be looking at it, and then we'll start in 2025 doing these other 5 items. We haven't really talked about it. I think in March, I have it where we will talk about the community survey, what we want. My personal view on that, I'd like to use the same one from 2018, so we have exact same data. So we have something to compare to, but we'll see what other people think. But I think that would be a really interesting thing to see, what kind of changes there are been from our community. So that's what the resolution is, basically saying that we're gonna get community participation. And Plan did pass their resolution, which was almost exactly like this. It just said Plan Commission.
I'll make a motion to approve the public participation plan resolution as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I have one question. Do people here want to be heavily involved or wait for? Well, let me ask you this. What involvement would you like to have with this? I don't want to force anything, because I guess you don't have to answer right now, but I'll be asking that again probably in January when we get closer to updating it and getting some of this other stuff.
Well, like, what do you mean by that statement?
Well, it wouldn't bother me if someone says, hey, I'll organize the stakeholder input meeting. Find a place, find a time, go and contact us.
That's what Michael's doing.
Yeah. That is what I'm referring to. Like I say, you know, the more the people, the better. And that's gonna be the same thing with the annual meeting. I mean, I think that annual meeting, if we're gonna expand, it's gotta be more than just the village president. We gotta have a good plan and have more involvement with other people, and you get a better product. But anyways, think about it. Like I say, I think the open house would be ideal for the annual community meeting, you know, next spring. So I think that one, I think, is kind of a key. I mean, I'll go with anything else, but I think if we can make it where we get people there for multiple reasons, then we can get good input. It seems like here, I know the pool, the rec and the library ended up getting some surveys done at this last one. So there's a value to getting people together and then collecting as much as we can.
Could you send us that timeline? I mean,
Yeah.
is that just like an informal thing, or do you want to send that to us?
No, not at all. Not at all.
See like what those ideas are?
Well, there's not ideas.
Oh, well, no, but like what does?
No.
The order.
Okay, what we did is, to keep it simple, it's the chapters. So in June, I have updated the introduction one. July 1st, Sarah will do chapter 1, and then we'll finish, not you, the other Sarah, will approve the draft of the introduction. Then August 5th is chapter 2, and approve the draft of, it's just that.
That's just chapter each.
And who's assigned to it, who's lead.
I think Michael was asking about like the things you were looking for help for, like.
Oh, we haven't even scheduled that.
Okay, that's what I was.
Oh, no.
Well, because you got that, and then I thought you had like, oh, then we're gonna do stakeholders thing or like other things. I just kind of wanted to kind of see the whole plan or whatever the plan.
No, yeah, those are the things that we have, you know, that what we agreed to today, that's what's in our current plan. And we might as well do the exact same thing.
But
So,
I would even take a copy of that.
yeah, no, I can send that. There's no secret to that at
Yeah.
all. But we have not We have not talked about the participation, because the thought is, let's get things updated, so when we bring it to the public, we're not getting, well, no, there's not 6 elementary schools, there's 7.
You're not like
And-
nitpicking this.
Yeah, they're doing little things that, okay, we know that, and we know we have pre-crossing, well, that's not there, you know what I mean, we're gonna try to get things just updated, no decision making, just update what's going on. That's what this exercise is, but it should clear a lot of the stuff away. The little stuff
Yeah.
that we're not gonna waste our time at a public meeting.
Right.
All righty? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right. We're at number 5, discussion and possible action, village sick leave policy update.
Okay, so the village department head team is still gathering on a monthly basis to talk through different initiatives and review different policy ideas and do some research on different topics for things that we think could benefit the village. This particular topic came up during our most recent discussions. It was voiced by more than one department head stating that this is an issue that they would like to have the board at least have a discussion about to see where we could potentially take this. So some of our current most senior employees or veteran employees with the community right now do in fact have the 1440 max hour limit that they can carry for sick leave. The issue that they're running into, like it outlines in the memo, is at the end of the calendar year, they are losing anything in excess of the 1440 figure. So what was asked of the department heads in that discussion and to see if the board might be receptive to was opening up the cap to allow for employees to accrue over the 1440 figure, but for retirement sick leave conversion purposes to leave the 1440 hour cap in place.
Judy?
I just want to reiterate, just to make sure I understand. Okay?
Yeah.
So you're saying leave the 1440 in place, but all of a sudden I have 2,000 or whatever, 2,500 hours. The difference, if I retire tomorrow, I can use to pay towards my pay towards my health insurance.
Only 1440 will convert if you retire to payout purposes. You would forfeit anything above the 1440, but it would at least allow for people to accrue in the event of an emergency or something unforeseen that popped up and then took them out of commission for a couple of months, and then they thought they had something planned for retirement, and then it's gone.
No,
What do other communities do? Is there a cap? Is there, I just am unsure. I would like to know more about the issue.
Yeah, we only looked at this from our perspective and our discussions, the thorough research and delve into what other communities have or offer right now. We haven't gotten into. We just wanted to see if there was interest in discussing this first.
if I can, to answer your question, I did do a little digging. Mount Horeb is at 1,000. City of Madison's at 1,200. Verona is at, Verona and Middleton, one's at 1,140, the other one's at 1,100. So we're right now, I didn't find any community that was as high as ours. I mean, we're 20% higher than the city of Madison.
It's 180 days.
Yeah, it's like a lot, Madison's 150. Michael?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I support this or not. It seems like we're already at a pretty high amount. I understand if something catastrophic happened, that they don't have that retirement and that they've been working and they're losing. I understand that. My other question is though, is that if we bump this up and they start going over, then we do have a policy of where sick leave can be transferred should some other employee become injured or sick when they're out of commission. Employees can grant each other sick leave. This then would also allow more of that. I'm assuming if somebody does a bunch, they'd be more willing to share with the sick employee. But it just depends on if we want to start to offer that expanded benefit.
I guess I'm not really sure, are you looking at an unlimited? So people can go as high as they want, or are you asking for another 200 hours? I don't know what the ask is.
I think realistically, the department heads are just wondering, is the board open to revisiting this policy? And if so, you know, we can go back and start taking on additional research and looking into what it is, or if you think this might be a worthwhile endeavor to pursue, but we didn't get formal numbers. No one said 2,000 is the figure we're shooting for. We never got into specifics. It was just this is an issue that's coming up and hitting a couple of our employees right now. Is there something that could possibly be done?
Michael, then myself.
So I guess if people are starting to hit it, it becomes. I don't know how many employees actually are maxing out their vacation and using it, because if employees are starting to bounce up against the sick leave, and we increase it. Then they maintain their 1440 for retirement, but now they can just call in sick and not go underneath their 1440 for retirement. It's like we're giving away free vacation days. I mean, not being rude, but you understand what I'm saying, and yet they still get to maintain the 1440 maximum for said retirement purposes, but get to be sick and retain that at the same time.
So my whole thing is, so it's myself, Judy, Cody. My whole thing is, I think I'm always open to changes in policy and anything, but when it comes to the board, I think it needs to be why, what you're looking for, and the justification. I mean, just having a discussion on what we're open, part of me, parts of it would be, I would say, yes, I would not be in favor of unlimited. I don't, you know what I'm saying? I think there's always the next step then, of course, okay, we're at 1440, let's move up the reimbursement, at retirement to whatever they have. I mean, I know that would have to come again, but I think things have to be a little bit more defined for me to say yes or no on it. But as a general rule, I'm open all the time that we continue to move forward and relook at these, and that's part of
I
what the
think
government should be doing.
I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody on this, but I guess I get the feeling or consensus that before the staff want to invest a lot of additional time in researching something that clearly isn't embraced by the board, they want to just understand, is that an open idea? And then we will invest versus putting all the hours in to do it and find out no one ever wanted that in the first place.
All right, Judy and then Cody.
I totally get that and I respect that because I waste all the time.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like it's already really generous, and I worked for a company that did let you carry over vacation and sick times, and especially sick time, I should say, and when they let you carry it over, people came to work sick. And then when it was times that you couldn't carry any over, people used a sick day once a month. It's kind of strange, but yeah, I've seen people show up to work that were sick that shouldn't be at work because they wanted to make sure they could keep saving it. So I've seen it backfire before also sometimes, and that's, especially if they start maxing, but I think this is very, very generous. I support what we have actually.
Cody?
I echo Judy, the 1440 of City of Madison is at 1,200. And we're not comparing pay to them. Well, here's an issue where it's like, hey, we're above the City of Madison. I can understand where they're coming from if they want to increase it, but it also opens the door to abuse. Whereas you get to 1,600 hours, you're retiring next year. Like, I'll just be sick today. I've seen it happen in my department this year with accrued leave being abused. Because unless there's a policy, like if you use a sick day, you have to bring in a doctor's note. I think it's after 3 days, you have to have a doctor's note.
I read our employee manual, at least the old version said 3 days. They need a doctor.
So you could be sick on Thursday and Friday every week for 6 months, kill off 200 hours of your sick leave. I just think it just opens the door to abuse. Not that I'm saying any of the employees would do it,
No.
but
But I get, and I hear you, and I've heard that, but see, to me, if it's abuse, that should be dealt with a separate way. I hear I hear what you're saying, understand, and we ran, obviously in, police department, we ran into the same thing. People took time off in front of their RDOs or after, and we had a system that kicked that out, and that was a pattern. We would talk to the employee. I hear what you're saying, but I don't know if you necessarily, that doesn't necessarily influence me on not giving a benefit because it might be abused. But I do agree that this is, you know, we are the highest right now.
As a village employee, who has been maxed out for 1440 for probably close to a dozen years, that is a benefit that every other employee is receiving, and I'm not. It's not fair. You know, I should be able to appear more than 1440. Okay. So I got $1,800. I have a heart attack. I'm laying in the hospital for a month. Can't work for 3. But yet I'm still, you know, if you don't give it to me, you're taking off my 1440 that I worked for to get and cure, and I'm getting screwed. Because it happened to me a couple of years ago. I had an issue. And I was off work for a month. And I had 1,600 hours built up. That 1,600 hours didn't mean shit because I started right at the 1440 and took it away from there. I had to build that all back up. That's a benefit that I did not receive that everybody else could get. They were getting 8 hours a month onto their sector. And me, as being maxed out, I'm not getting them 8 hours a month.
Well, help me, and maybe that's not how I didn't think it worked, and I can tell you the city of Madison doesn't.
This is not the city.
I understand, but I just wanna talk with Bobby. So when they're at 1440, they get no more time? Or they accumulate the time and then on December 31st, you back it down to 1440?
Right, so the new software will. January, yes, it'll give
That's
him, and then on December 31st.
It backs it out.
Yeah.
So,
Theoretically, I lose 96 hours a year because I don't take sick time. I'm not one of those.
no, I agree with
I'm
you,
not one
but,
of those employees who abuse sick time and do the one.
no, I was just trying, your statement earlier was that you were at 16, you had the medical issue. They then took it from 1440. That was my concern when you made that statement, because that shouldn't have happened.
Well, that-
It should have been taken from the 1600
Well,
down. That's what I just want to clear. That's what I was trying to do, is just
it
get.
wasn't taken, it was taken from the 1440.
Cause I think at that time we were under the old software and it didn't,
It
Go
did
up
every
to
month,
14.
like every month it would knock it down. to
right, the
14.
old
Oh,
software
right.
wasn't set up the same.
Yeah,
so
okay.
yes, right, that happened.
that, I would
That was-
agree with you. That was not fair there, but we should have it where you build up. But yes, at January 1st or December, that's when it gets brought back down to the
No.
ceiling.
It should,
No, I'm just telling you, I'm just saying what the system.
it should maintain for the X amount of years that you're there. So like I say, if something catastrophically happens, it takes from like your balance of 1,800 hours of sick time, and it goes down.
Yeah,
So when you retire, you lose, you know, whatever above the 1440, you lose, and you know that. But you will still always maintain your 1440.
yeah, okay, I have Cameron and Cody.
I was just gonna say, I think, I agree with Jay that like some more specificity on kind of, you know, what you should be looking at would be good. I do think it's worth the time of the department head just to poke around a little bit and see what's out there and come back with, you know, something a little more concrete.
Cody,
Is there something we could do for, in the case of an employee like him who's getting 100 hours a year, where you could have a catastrophic leave bank for a long tenured employee that if in the event like of a heart attack, it's like, okay, he's gonna be laid up for months. Like, is there something that they,
I see you, Elizabeth. I'll get right to you.
is there something we can write in like as a catastrophic leave bank for a long?
I don't know. We'd have to check. I mean, that's an idea. I think that's what I think that should go back to look at that. I don't know what the state law is and the legal things on all that. I'm not an expert in this, so I don't know. I got Elizabeth and Cameron.
this is what we're asking for, is because then employees have that bank built out in time that they have earned and then able to keep, so if something catastrophic happens, they can use it. So this is that catastrophic, like if people are in either event, they just lose it, but you're probably more likely to have that event for the end of your career.
Right.
And if you're a longstanding employee, like, we're working for the employee retention, if we want to encourage people to spend it for years, to have that, that institutional knowledge. So that means you're gonna run into the 14 40 cap and then no benefit. So this is just like our attempt to still keep giving employees that benefit, and then they probably, if something happens, and if not, they still get that big chunk of money for it. Health.
Cameron?
The other thing that I would have you guys, when you talk with the department heads again, just as like another thing to look into is, you know, if you're, you know, you're not finding other municipalities or whatever that are going much above it, 180, you know, something else that we could consider for, you know, wonderful employees like this who don't take a lot of sick time and they're just getting a reset at the end of every year. Maybe there's something else we can do. Like, is there like a bonus or something that like kicks in, you know, if you're up there, so you're at least you're not getting nothing. Yeah.
Sarah?
I think that's what I would want to know from all these other communities, because the hours, you know, that, what, I mean, that's one piece of it, but how many do have catastrophic leave banks? And I have one, so, that's what the information I would want.
You have, the school district has something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be interesting to see how that's structured.
You can donate.
We're, yeah. we can
Oh,
donate.
when, yeah, the
So, like,
donating
But
part.
that is nice because.
Oh, yeah, we have that here.
Is that what,
Yeah, cause I donated to one of the officers, so you can. They have a program where you can donate.
Sick time?
I know my salary.
no, I mean, like, can they take, like, I can take my sick time hours and donate it.
Right, we can do that here.
To yourself or to?
No, to someone else.
To another coworker.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we can do that.
Yes, we can do that here.
Employees can do that, yeah, they can
Okay.
donate their sick leave to somebody else.
Oh, I thought you guys were talking about, you had that, what you were talking.
Right, but if
You
nobody,
want a personal, that was.
but if no one
Yeah.
gets sick,
Okay, I
and
guess
don't
when I-
donate it, you're still losing 96 hours a year.
I,
And that is a benefit that other lower year employees are getting that you're not.
no,
You're
I,
getting cheated out of that.
yeah, that's not what I'm saying. When I do catastrophic leave bank, that's my background knowledge on it, is that we have, but I'm not saying I'm against that at all, because I do agree that when those events do happen later in your career, and I think that is something we should be looking into, because I think that is unfortunate and it's not fair, so,
It's been a lot of years that I've lost 96 hours.
sure.
Okay, Bobby, then Mike.
I don't know if this is really too related, but so we've had a number of newer employees who've had medical issues lately, and they don't have sick leave to use, or they're depleting their sick leave. And so we have all these employees who are near retirement, and they're not as willing to donate their sick leave because they lose it. And so it's me and Mike Axon basically are the only ones donating our sick leave, because we're in that thing where we have plenty of years to accumulate. So we're not at the end where we need to save it, but we have enough that we can donate. So it's,
Can they donate it at the end of on December 30th?
Well, I would think the people who are gonna lose theirs would donate, cause you have nothing to lose.
But you don't just donate it, they have to have a reason to need.
No, I understand that, I
yeah,
understand
yeah,
that.
this is really.
No, but if you're at 1440 and someone needs it, you're gonna lose it anyway, right?
Yeah, but.
Right, but that's in December, so how do you know in December? I mean, that's
Yeah.
not bringing sick in
I
December.
just
Oh, I
want
see
to
what you're
so at the sick time is prorated, correct? So at like January 1 is when you get the 96 hours.
No, it's 8 hours a month.
Have donated sick time.
Yeah.
People who needed that, because I know I'd lose it anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
That's what he said.
yeah. Did you have?
No, that's
Oh,
what
Michael.
I'm saying is.
Yeah.
I guess my question, and here it talks about how 4 days, the number of hours can remain out of work and then subsequently qualify for disability benefits. So is this, when you're out of work for 144 hours, then your disability benefits kick in? Is how it's structured up?
Right, yeah, that's why it's like, it was at, I think, like 960 hours when Matt Chunky was the administrator, and from what I was told, they moved it to the 1440, because at 6 months, and our disability doesn't kick until 6, that way you can build up a bank of 6 months until your
And then the other.
disability would kick
Yeah,
in.
then the wage insurance kicks.
So do all employees automatically get disability benefits, or is it an option they can opt out of?
They can opt out.
So that isn't a guaranteed benefit.
Well, it's guaranteed if you choose to.
Well, yeah, well, but it's not given, it says they can opt out, which means they
If
don't
they do have
pay
to,
for
they
it.
have to
They have to pay for.
fill out a
something.
form and turn it into the state when they're hired, yes.
What, to qualify for it, you mean, to get it?
To sign up. Yeah, so they fill out a form that says I accept or I deny.
Now, does
Easy,
it,
it's gonna even cost.
yeah, does it cost, does the employee pay
So the
$5 a month? to
Nah.
qualify for the disability
The
benefit?
employee does not pay anything, and currently the state is on a holiday, so since I've worked here, the village has not even paid premiums toward disability.
But everyone's getting it though.
It used to be you needed to have three, and back then for the state, you needed to have 12 days worth of sick time built up and not use 3 days within a year. Then you ended up getting it for free. In the old days, you had to pay some up until that.
Okay.
But now it sounds like it's free.
It's currently free, but I have heard that in a couple of years, we'll have to start charging premiums again.
Yeah, but it's only for that first 3 years, and once you build up enough sick time, then they. At least that's how it used to be, you didn't have to pay that. All right, so you got what you need?
Yes, I will go back to our team and we'll discuss this, get some more research done.
All right. Any future agenda items that people want?
Just sort of like what I was talking about before when we were talking about the audit, I'm not sure when we're gonna do our debt offering at all. Cause I know, like, go and talk to Ellers, but should we have a discussion about what we wanna do with the funds in the general fund before we talk to Ellers and they draw up our capital things, and they don't come in, we're like, no, we wanna spend all this money buying police cars rather than taking debt out on it?
Yep, so actually Brian and I were talking about this Friday or
Yeah.
this morning, I don't even remember. So I was gonna come up with like some options, like, we have this huge fund balance, we can, do maybe A, B, or C. And we're not planning to do our borrowing for a couple months, I was hoping interest rates would come down, but I don't know if they're really gonna change, so. That's.
So then talking about that option would be to reduce the capital borrowing.
Right, yep.
We should have the
Definitely a-
conversation if nothing else.
Yeah, no, I think we should, before so that we could, so she could advise Ellers kind of what our thoughts are.
Right, I think what we're trying to do is actually figure out the amount that we have to borrow.
Right.
You know-
We don't need to have to.
Well, for example, I'm not sure the squad cars are gonna be in 2024.
Oh.
So there's no sense borrowing for the squad cars if they're not coming in until 2025.
I guess, oh.
We've talked to the architects, they're doing it. By phase, basically. So we don't need to borrow all of it if some of it's gonna be into 2025. So we're trying to figure out what that amount is, and then we'll have options on, like you say, what we wanna spend it on, and if we wanna,
You're saying like we don't have to borrow all the money for the architectures for the building, because it might
Right.
go over a little bit, we'll just borrow
Yeah.
40,000.
Right,
Okay.
and that's what I think, what we're trying to figure out is exactly what we will need.
What we'll need and how much excess cash we have to.
Right.
and reduce that a little bit, like pre-conversation.
Right.
about this.
Right.
Or is there a certain amount we wanna keep for, maybe, right, we either borrow now or we borrow later, I guess, One discussion was, for the new building, instead of borrowing for the furnitures or fixtures or artwork, that's paid for with the cash. So borrowing.
Yeah,
Or
there's some
interest rate
thoughts.
thing, if you
Yeah,
think
no,
interest
but-
rates are gonna go down, we're better off using the cash this year and then borrowing when interest rates are forward a year or two.
So that'll be clearly on the future agenda.
Okay, I just make one.
Yeah, we just don't know what month it'll be.
Yeah, no, I just didn't want Ellers to come and we were like, oh, no, we're not borrowing for that, and they're like.
No, I don't think we've given Ellers any number.
Well, right, that's what I'm saying.
What we talked about, is this where I talk about that? for future agenda items with the school bus passing?
Well, you should go to.
That's on the public safety committee.
Yeah,
When is that?
Then,
5/23. It got moved to a weird Thursday.
yeah, that's where you should start. And that's on their agenda, I believe.
yeah, Tony sent me the agenda today to post. I guess.
So just so you guys are aware, it only costs $124 fine to pass a school bus with the flashing reds on the cross plates.
Only on the
It's only $124.
What is it also?
6, 9, 800.
Are you proposing an increase in that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk, he's got it, he's
Yeah,
putting it through the process.
Well,
so,
yeah, I can say a propose what he's
Yeah.
proposing, I mean,
Yeah,
You said June 23rd?
No, maybe.
May.
May.
you volunteer.
Yeah, I go public comment every time.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, I am looking for,
Motion to adjourn.
okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, good job.
Yeah, because we had one.